Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Thursday. This is Seattle Now. You can find little free food pantries all around Seattle neighborhoods. They're a great place to stock up on a few things in a pinch or donate ingredients to a neighbor. Researchers at the University of Washington just launched an app to help people find and fill little free pantries. They're hoping to reduce food waste and make the pantries more efficient. I'll talk with one of the researchers behind the project in a minute, but first, let's get you caught up. The plan to allow housing near the Seattle stadiums is finally dead. The Seattle City Council this week unanimously voted to repeal a law passed by the council last year that would have allowed apartments to be built in areas where only hotels are allowed. The repeal comes after the state's Growth Management Board said the city didn't conduct a proper environmental review. The idea was proposed by Councilmember Sarah Nelson, who lost re-election last fall. Seattle Times reports some council members are open to bringing the idea back in the future. Washington Attorney General Nick Brown has filed a lawsuit against Providence Health and Services for their alleged treatment of pregnant and nursing employees. The AG's office says the hospital denied employees several accommodations, including limits on heavy lifting and flexible scheduling for prenatal visits. In a statement, Providence says it strives to fully comply with laws that regulate pregnancy-related accommodations. It added that it did engage in discussions with the AG's office and is disappointed by the state's focus on litigation. And advocates are calling for a street on Capitol Hill to become pedestrian-only. The group Central Seattle Streets wants to launch a pilot for Barbara Bailey Way. The street is just behind the light rail station off Broadway and already hosts the Capitol Hill Farmers Market every Sunday. The Capitol Hill blog reports the group has begun early conversations with city officials who did a walkthrough during a recent farmers market. We're back with more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. There are more than 300 little food pantries in our region. Many sprung up around COVID when some people were extra focused on helping their neighbors through mutual aid. Giacomo Dalla Chiara is a senior research scientist at the University of Washington who studies urban transportation. He got the idea to look into free pantries after noticing one near his home was getting a lot of use. His research team is using door sensors and an app to study how so-called micropantries are being used in Seattle and how they could help more people. Giacomo, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's define what we're talking about here and how it fits into the greater food support system.
These are very small. Literally, they are like wooden boxes, most of them. Some of them are refrigerated, so we call them like community fridges. They are on the public right away most of the time, and they are completely, unmanaged or unattended mostly. Some are, households that decided to do like a weekend project and build them up, and then they kind of like leave them be. Others are more well-managed and run by organizations that maintain them, clean them, restock them. So there's a huge variety of forms and, business models, I would say.
Who's using them? What do you know about who's using them?
So we don't know much about it. And this project that we are doing, is trying to address that as well. In the survey that we've done first, like 70% of the respondents are female with kids. And we were quite amazed by that. We weren't guessing that was like the community using those, right? There are very few papers being written about that. There are very few, almost no studies on that. So our thinking right now is that they are complementary to other, very important programs that are in Seattle, like, some of the major food banks are very important, of course. But this one, they kind of provide this extra lift to kind of go by the day, right? To like provide this extra snack or some apples and things like that.
Filling a gap.
Filling the gap, exactly.
How are the pantries doing overall? Are they still helping people post-COVID, or are they not organized enough to be trackable that way?
They are, in the sense that they are used. And we also seen, after COVID, we've seen quite a big increase in number of people going to food pantries. So there has been an increase as well from that side. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is an increase also in using those little food pantries. What we've seen from the data we collected so far from the census, we are around like 20 visits per day per pantry, which is quite a bit, and around like 30 pounds of food being donated every day from an average pantry. Overall, our estimate, it's around like 4 million pounds of food donated through the whole network of Little Food Pantry in Seattle.
I bet you have seen your fair share of wild food pantry donations, Giacomo.
Yes, I did. One of my collaborators, Emily Hove, she's done safety assessments with a lot of them, especially community fridges. So she has more wild stories than me. My favorite was when I saw a bottle of limoncello left in one. It was perfectly closed and safe. I was very tempted to take it. I did not. I had my own bottle of limoncello at home, but I was surprised, and thought of like, why did that ended up there and what need does it, supply?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your research. What are you tracking? How are you tracking it?
So our research has two different main activities that we're doing. One are the sensor part. So the idea was to retrofit existing Little Food Pantry. We're not adding anything new, but we are retrofitting some of them with a sensing platform. We wanted those sensors to be completely anonymous, so we're not tracking any videos or audios or anything traceable to individuals. What we're doing is very simple. We're tracking a door opening, closing, so we're trying to understand the kind of like interaction and activity people have with a pantry, right? So if you want to grab something or you want to donate something, you have to open first the door. Secondly, we are placing new shelf on top of the existing shelf with scale sensors.
Oh.
Those measure basically any change in weight. Sort of like when you weigh yourself in the morning. The only thing that they keep tracking any weight change. So every time there is a weight increase, so we call it donation. Every time there is a weight decrease, we call it like a reception.
Okay. So you've placed these sensors at food pantries around the city?
Correct. Right now, we have 4 that has been installed, and we have, been receiving data from those 4 pantries since January this year. We are, now recruiting more pantry stewards who are willing to have in-house install the sensors. We're also trying to find locations that are representative of pantries around Seattle. So we are trying to find, some more in rural, suburban areas, some more in like central areas. And then we retrofit them and we start tracking this data.
Let's talk about pantrymap.org, your app, because as we said at the top there are 300 or so micropantries in the neighborhood. So how is this app useful? Is it about food waste or feeding the most people?
It's both, and that's the beauty of the project. There are just 2 sites that are both, served by the Little Food Pantry and community fridges. One is we want to reduce food waste, so we want to make people aware, especially people that are not aware that they can donate food before it gets wasted. And there might be near you, like 1 or 2 blocks away, something that you can leave some of the, healthy, nutritious food that you still have but you don't need. You can leave it there and someone might find it useful. And that's one part of the project. And in the pantrymap.org, in our web portal, we also have a donation guide to really, we encourage people to inform themselves. Of course, like if you don't feel like eating yourself, or if you're in doubt, you should throw it away. You should compost it. If not, for instance, like we have information about when expiration dates, right? Like sometimes those are more like a suggestion rather than exactly like I need to throw it away because it's expired. So we are trying to educate people, make sure that what they donate is safe to eat at the time of donation. And so that's one priority we have. Second is informing that there is food there, right? That might be safe to eat, but then if it stays there for too long and people are not aware that it exists, then it might go bad, right? Or maybe the pantry is not fully well enclosed and there might be, rodents or squirrels or things like that, right? So we want that to happen. So we want, when the food is available, people to know that and be aware of what was donated.
And I was reading, I think in your research, that one of the other goals, like to take it even further, would be to analyze what's needed in these pantries and help serve people better, ultimately.
Correct. And that's something that we got by talking to food donors and pantry stewards, that they are just not, there is no communication system with their receivers. Sometimes you see some like small whiteboards where people leave a thank you message or some kind of request or like a small note inside. Those are kind of like nice to see, but they're not the most efficient way to communicate. So our idea is, what if we provide the communication system in the most simplest way? In this case, pantrymap.org has a wish list. So that's like, something basically we are experimenting with. Someone can just leave like what they need. Someone they can leave a message on the portal. And those are pantry specific pages. So for each micropantry, they can leave a specific request or a message or a thank you message or communication with the potential pantry steward.
You know, one of the cool things about these pantries when they first started was that they are analog and spontaneous, and they feel very of the neighborhood, right? Is there something that gets lost when we study them and track them and try to turn them into a system?
That's true. And I totally agree with that. I mean, the beauty of them is that they're literally low cost at zero cost, right? They're unattended. There's no cost. They don't need volunteers, right? It's really like based on people's goodwill and free time, right? And it's amazing. And there are different ranges, right? There might be some that are more managed. There are some cases, one of them where we installed the sensor, it's managed by the St. Paul Episcopal Church near Seattle Center. They are amazing. And that's a full-fledged, fully managed pantry. They restock it, they maintain it. They're doing a great job. So that's actually a little bit more than just build a pantry and let it be. Mm-hmm. So there's much more behind some of those. Others is literally, again, like a weekend project. We are trying to be invisible in a way. Like, we don't want to impact the system. We don't want to encourage misbehaviors, for instance. We don't want people start driving and getting everything all at once. We haven't seen that happening so far. But we're trying to be very transparent and invisible in a way we act upon. We are really trying to study and see what are the minimum amount of tech and information and data, and leave that to the community to decide how to use it and how to empower themselves. But we're totally aware that that's a beauty, right? And if you think of a range of different, I would say, typologies of pantries, right? From the most centralized, kind of the amazing main food pantry at the U District Food Bank. That's like a super, clean, amazing, high quality food there. Very centralized, right? It needs infrastructure, it needs maintenance, it needs a lot of volunteers, right? And that's why it cannot be always open, right? It cannot function as a commercial pantry. All the way to our, little food pantry community fridges, they are very low maintenance and zero. And in the middle, there are a lot of different ranges. Like, we have also automated lockers, for they've been trialed. Mm-hmm. We have more indoor pantries. There are inside shops and things like that. So there's a lot of ranges. It's not really like either that or more centralized one. There are all different possible typologies and ranges of different food pantries.
Really interesting. Giacomo, what are the next steps for your research project, and when will your study end? When will you know what you've learned?
So this study is sponsored by the National Science Foundation Civic Innovation Challenge, and it's a challenge because it's a one-year project.
Okay.
So it's ending in October. We are not closing the pantrymap.org then. We will be continuing in that as much as we can. The idea is that now we are seeing a lot of data. I've seen everyday activities on all the pantry with the sensor. And, we hope that, as pantrymap.org gets used, to start seeing self-reported data. So we really encourage food donors to self-report the data so we don't rely on sensors. People are using them, so we wanted to study, but we also want to understand how to, make them better, how to make them safer. And so that would be the next step, really. Like, is these small activities we are doing for this research project changing systems, and we are tracking that through the sensors.
Really interesting. Giacomo Dalla Chiara is a senior research scientist at UW's Urban Freight Lab. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our generous donors for your support. Take a moment, rate and review the show, even share it with a friend. Today's episode was produced by Anna Marie Yanni. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Andy Hurst, Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. Talk to you tonight for Evening Headlines.